Let's have a look back at 2012 and see his impressions of the market. Anton Kardash from the REIQ joins me. Anton, how are we going to look back on 2012?
Well, it's been one of those very interesting years, hasn't it? We came off a really bad previous year, 2011, so we could only hope that it would get better. And I think you can say towards the end of the year it did get better, but it took a bloody long way to get here, didn't it?
Mm. So, a gloomy look back on 2012?
Look, I think from my members' perspective, certainly the market was very, very slow in the first part of the year. You could say that we bounced along the bottom, or you could say we treaded water, but by and large, sort of in residential, except for the mining areas, we saw pretty constrained sales activity. We did start to see, as the year went on, a bit of an improvement in the rental property market, and that was, again, I think mainly because first home buyers started to come into that market and the investors started to come back, but then they ebbed. It's like a wave. They ebbed and they flowed through the year, so it wasn't a consistent pattern of getting better and getting better. In the last quarter, we did see, though, a positive end to the year. Sales activity in most places across Queensland became a double-digit activity, so I think probably the smallest we saw was around 22%, which was interesting. It was in a mining town of all places, in Gladstone, whereas I think we saw about 37% in Brisbane on the whole, and in some places like Toowoomba we saw 78% increase in sales activity on the previous quarter, which you'd have to say is a positive end to the year. Again, traditionally spring is the time you get the listings and not necessarily the sales, and summer's the time when you really get the listing and the sales. So I've got to say it was a good spring, and we're hoping for a magnificent summer.
By and large, Anton, Queensland home buyers have been sitting on the sidelines for quite some time. What's it going to take for them to get their mojo back?
Yeah, look, it's about confidence, isn't it? We've always said that the market is full of confidence, and there are so many variables that actually affect confidence, and it's as simple as, do I have enough money in my bank, and is the bank going to lend me some money? Can I buy that property I want? And then through to just how the community feels about how Australia and how Queensland's going at the moment. And I'd have to say I suspect the confidence of the community is a bit under pressure. We haven't had a consistency in our leadership that makes people feel comfortable that now's the time to make critical life decisions like buying a property. I'm hoping going forward to get our mojo back, we need consistency from our leaders, good decision making. We need the bad news from overseas to ease up a little bit. What's keeping us going at the moment is the interest rates. Now, they're filtering through now. I think the current activity comes from the interest rate changes that occurred a couple of months ago. The interest rate change we've had just the other day will take a couple of months to filter through. That's what's keeping us going, but we need a lift in the broader confidence levels to get our mojo back.
Anton, you mentioned interest rates there. Interest rates are now at record lows. How low do you think they're going to have to go, or what's it going to take to stimulate the market? Because it hasn't happened the way it has in previous years.
I think interest rates are now just one variable. Once upon a time they were a very, very strong variable in affecting people's decision making, and that's because there was sort of comfort in the rest of the world. Things were going well. There was a sense that we were growing, that the world was a positive place, that things were happening. That's not the feeling that we're hearing at the moment, and we see that in the reports from the various banks on confidence levels. You know, I read some stuff today, and one report said we've dropped to the lowest since the GFC, a -9%, I think, the National Bank's confidence level. Another one I saw said small businesses had plateaued at they hadn't gone up and down, but they'd plateaued at a very low level. So you'd have to say all the other indicators around confidence seem to be quite negative. I mean, in the newspaper every day you hear about brand names, significant brand names, closing their doors. You know, there's conversations about Holden, Ford, whether they'll stay in Australia and whether they'll keep going. All these things people are sensitive to. Interest rates have to compete against all that negativity. And once upon a time, you know, all that was positive, and the interest rates were the only things that changed. But now there's too many other things that change, and the impact of interest rates are diluted because of that.
We've noticed too, Anton, that more and more young people are delaying the decision to buy property well into their 30s. And looking back on my day anyway, I don't know so much about your day, but certainly looking back on my day, we used to buy houses around 18 to 20-year-old. Is that a concern for you?
Oh, look, I wouldn't call it a concern, I think, because it's just a trend that's happening at the moment. I mean, if you listen to any of the demographers who talk at the moment, well, the average age of leaving home now is about 28. When I was a kid, you left home at 18. You bought a car, you got a job, you left home, it was about 18. Nowadays, the data suggests it's 28. It's about 30 they get married. So, really, quite obviously, leaving home and getting married at 28, 30, then buying a house isn't going to happen until about 30 as well. I think we're just in a changing world, and it's going to be quite interesting to see how it goes. I'm not sure. Whether I'm worried about it? No. People buy houses all the time, at all times of life. What we really need them to do is, while they're living at home, to buy the investment property first.
Yeah, very good point. Now, on that point, what's your advice for people looking at getting into the market in 2013?
Oh, look, I think now's the time to do it. We've all the indicators are suggesting that the pent-up demand over the last 12 months, coming off a very, very low bottom, the pressure valves needs to be released at the moment. We're seeing some really interesting sales happening at the moment. Certainly, volumes up. We're also seeing median price up as well. You'd have to say, on the basis of that, if this is sustained, then we're off the bottom of the market. We're in our 10-year cycle. We're halfway through it. We're on the bottom of the cycle at the moment. We're definitely going to go up. The question is whether it's quite this month or next month, but you've got to say that next year we'd expect to come off the bottom, and if you haven't bought by halfway through next year, you've probably well and truly missed it.
So there's the wrap. That's what it's all about. Make sure you get into the market. Anton, thank you very much, and all the best for Christmas and the New Year.
Merry Christmas to you as well.